Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Ancient Reptilian Overlords. Archaeologists excavating the ancient site of Tel al-Ubaid in Iraq made one of the most shocking discoveries of the early 20th century. Artifacts were uncovered from 7,000 years ago. Artifacts which appear to depict bizarre, alien-like humanoid beings with reptilian features. These figures weren't made by any of the famous Mesopotamian civilizations you might be familiar with. Instead, it was the prehistoric Ubaid culture who was responsible for crafting them. This culture goes as far back as 5500 BC, but their origins are not entirely known. They likely lived in a large village settlement with houses built from mud and brick. They developed architecture, at least in its basic form, and learned how to farm using irrigation. But it's the artifacts of the reptilians that really have researchers scratching their heads. There were plenty of agricultural civilizations at the dawn of humanity, but none except the Ubaid culture worshipped lizard gods. The figurines are all very similar, showing reptilian humanoids with nearly identical features. Some are male and some are female. Some are holding babies, and others are gripping staffs and wearing what appear to be crowns. These lizard beings were clearly very important to the Ubaid culture, almost certainly worshipped religiously, but nobody knows what they really were. We don't know if these creatures were fictional gods, alien beings who came down from the stars, or a race of subterranean lizard people who have since gone extinct. Number 9. The Fart God. For thousands of years before Europeans invaded North America, the Innu people of northern Quebec hunted moose and deer, farmed the land, and fished. They were among the first indigenous people to call the area home. Like most groups of Native Americans, the Innu worshipped animal gods and honored the spirits of all living things. One of the stranger deities worshipped by the Innu was Machishishkapeu, the fart god. It was said that Machishkapeu existed everywhere and was omnipresent, always with you no matter where you traveled. He was a bizarre personification of the human fart. When somebody passed gas, the Innu believed it was the fart god trying to communicate. Machishkapeu wasn't just a fringe deity either. He was incredibly important. He offered humor in times of hardship, and if he made himself known during a great hunt, that could be interpreted in pretty much any way. It was said the fart god was one of the most powerful in the Innu world, even overpowering the Caribou Master by cursing him with constipation. The Innu also believed the only way to truly understand what the fart god was trying to say was by concentrating whenever he made himself known. In other words, whenever somebody passed gas, they had to stop and try to decipher what the omnipresent deity in their rear end was trying to tell them. Number 8. The Celestial Deities of the Maya. There is no denying that the ancient Maya loved the stars. They observed and interpreted every aspect of the sky they could. It was from these celestial objects, things like the stars, the moon, and the other planets in the solar system, that most of their deities were born. For the Maya, the earth was the center of everything. Over 1,500 years after the Maya were gone, Christian leaders held the same belief. The only difference was that the Maya worshipped celestial objects. They didn't have one mighty god, but many mighty gods. As they watched the glowing objects in the sky move from one place to another, they interpreted that as the gods traveling to different realms. There was Kinich Ahau, the sun god who shined in the sky all day. He was such an important figure that many Maya rulers claimed that they were descendants of the sun itself. Kinich was both the blazing sun and a human-like deity who could make babies. Then there was the moon goddess Ixchel. Like many other ancient cultures, the day and night cycle was explained by the moon constantly being at war with the sun. Every night, Ixchel defeated Kinich Ahau and banished him to the underworld, and in the morning, their places were reversed. Number 7. Sheela Na Gig. The Sheela Na Gigs are strange medieval carvings with a mostly unknown history. They can be found all across Europe in medieval churches, castles, and gateposts all the way from Ireland to Spain. The carvings are small stone statues and figures depicting a woman squatting, gesturing, growling, and displaying her private parts in such a way that even these days would be considered over the top. Because of the subject matter of these statues, the church has been trying to get rid of them for centuries. Nobody knows exactly how many of the Sheela Na Gigs were in Europe in the Middle Ages. The church almost certainly destroyed a huge percentage of them. There are only a handful left now, with the majority being found in Ireland. We also don't know where they came from or what they are supposed to represent. Some experts have speculated they were idols worshipped by a pagan cult obsessed with females and reproduction. Others have suggested these sculptures were symbols of fertility, perhaps used in ancient birthing rituals. Some say they were used to ward off the devil, while others say it was the church who initially built them as a warning against committing sins. Number 6. The mystery gods of the Sanxingdui. The culture at Sanxingdui lived in China's Central Plains about 5,000 years ago. The first trace of them was discovered in 1929 near the village of Guanghan. A father and son were digging a well when they came across a sacrificial pit containing unimaginable treasure. They found relics made of gold, jade, and bronze. These artifacts came from the kingdom of Shu, who lived in their mighty capital of Sanxingdui. They were the most advanced culture in Asia at the time, at the forefront of technological innovation and architectural advancement for 2,000 years. And yet the civilization didn't leave any written evidence of their beliefs behind. For this reason, all we know about the Bronze Age kingdom of Shu is based on artifacts. The artifacts found in this ancient city are unlike anything found in China, specifically the weird idols of alien-like creatures with oddly proportioned heads and massive bulging eyeballs. The culture here appeared to have worshipped these figures, although nobody is sure what they were meant to represent. They weren't quite lizard people, but they weren't entirely human either. Even more bizarre is that the people at Sanxingdui were carving bronze statues of their deities 1,000 years before anyone else in China carved any kind of humanoid statue. And now for number 5. But first, want to give a big shout out to Will Haw and Anthony. Thanks so much for watching and supporting Origins Explained. If you are new here, welcome, and be sure to subscribe to join the Origins Explained family. Number 5. The Toilet Goddess. Before the Romans, the Etruscans ruled most of northern and central Italy. No one really knows where the Etruscans came from, but they were already established at least by 700 BC. It was only with the rise of the Roman Republic that the Etruscans lost their power. By the year 264 BC, the Etruscans were assimilated into Rome. Many of their beliefs, ideas, and cultural aspects were also absorbed into the Roman Republic. Etruscan legends became Roman legends. One of these legends was of Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, who ruled from between 616 and 579 BC. He has been credited with building the Cloaca Maxima, the greatest sewer system the ancient world ever saw. It was an immense system of canals and drains designed to prevent the capital from flooding and to move sewage away from civilized neighborhoods. After the creation of the Great Sewer, the Etruscans began worshipping one of the strangest goddesses in history. Her name was Cloacina, and she was the goddess of the toilet. Worship of the toilet goddess continued after the fall of the Etruscans and lasted long into the Roman Republic, with the Romans even building shrines to their obscure sewer deity. She was officially the goddess of the toilet, the sewer, and general filth. Number 4. The Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were the gods of ancient Mesopotamia. These mysterious beings were worshipped thousands of years before the Christians had angels, before the Greeks had Zeus, and before the Egyptians had Osiris. They have even been found on carvings and reliefs all over the ancient lands of Mesopotamia. They are often depicted as humans with wings, horned hats, and magical abilities. The Sumerians believed the Anunnaki had come from the heavens to help shape human society. But what were these deities really? Were they the first pantheon of gods, no different from the gods worshipped by the Romans? Or were they truly a race of exceptional humans from another planet? What we know is that the Anunnaki were the principal gods between roughly 4500 and 1750 BC. They were worshipped by the Sumerians, an early civilization that lived in modern Iraq and Iran. The ancient civilization was responsible for some of the most impressive technological advancements of their day. They invented the plow, developed the earliest known system of writing, cuneiform script, and they even came up with a way to keep track of time, which humans still use today. But according to the Sumerians themselves, this was only possible with help from the Anunnaki. Their mythology says that the Anunnaki descended from a supreme deity named An, and were tasked with bringing humanity out of the Dark Ages and teaching them how to form civilized societies. Some speculate the Anunnaki weren't deities, but real aliens who bestowed knowledge on primitive humans to help them advance and evolve. Number 3. Baphomet and the Knights Templar. Baphomet is not the devil, contrary to popular belief. If modern scholars are correct, he was never any kind of anything. The origin of the name can be traced back to the Holy Land in 1098. While the Christian Crusaders were fighting against the Islamic warriors, they thought the Islamists were calling upon a creature known as Baphomet. However, modern scholars believe it was a misinterpretation of the name Muhammad. Whatever the case, the Knights Templar brought back tales of this mysterious deity and allegedly began to worship it themselves. When the Knights Templar were brought up on charges of heresy in the 14th century, they were accused of worshipping the goat-headed Baphomet as a false idol. Philip IV, King of France, was in serious financial debt to the order as a result of a war with England. He hoped to have his debt erased, but at the same time feared the military might of the Templars. Therefore, he decided to have them arrested and charged with heresy. They were then burned alive, every last one the church could get their hands on. This is a fascinating case study in how a mispronounced or misinterpreted word turned into a demonic being from hell. Baphomet has never in 1,000 years gone away from popular culture. 200 years after somebody heard the name of the supposed demon screamed on a battlefield, Baphomet was used to milk false confessions out of the Knights Templar. It was all so that Philip IV could execute them and steal their money. And in 1854, French magician Eliphas Levi brought Baphomet back into the spotlight by giving it male and female physical parts. He gave Baphomet the head of a goat and turned it into a magical icon. These days, people assume Baphomet is another guise for Satan. Number 2. Meteorite worship. Ancient cultures all over the world were obsessed with meteorites. When early civilizations began to emerge, they believed that rocks that fell to the earth from space contained mystical powers and were capable of bestowing divine blessings. In ancient Egypt, they believed in star metal and learned how to make iron out of meteorites. They would use the metal extracted from space rocks to create extremely significant items, things with ceremonial and religious importance. The Egyptians, according to experts Thomas Brophy and Robert Bauval, who wrote a book on the subject, believed meteorites contained the very material that the heavens were made of. Ancient Egyptians also believed that their pharaohs were made from the same stuff. Ancient texts and pyramids have found descriptions of pharaohs as star gods, claiming their bones were made from iron and that their very bodies were made from the stars themselves. The Egyptians made amulets and special objects from meteorites for about 2,000 years before they realized they could mine iron from the ground they walked on. Number 1. The Wandjina Sky Being. There are strange images drawn on cliffs and cave walls throughout Western Kimberley, Australia. These drawings depict what is called the Wandjina Sky Being, and there are thousands of them. To the Aboriginal Australians thousands of years ago, the Wandjina was a supreme being not unlike the biblical god. Wandjina was said to have created Australia, handed down the law of the land to the people, and forced the Aboriginals to obey its every word. At least that's the official story behind these curious ancient artworks. The first discovery of the Wandjina Sky Being by outsiders was in 1837. The explorer George Gray was on an expedition to the northwest of Australia, a mission sponsored by the Royal Geographical Society, when he came across the Wandjina pictures in a cave. George copied what he found on the cave walls into his journal and then published them when he returned to Great Britain. The pictures caught the world's attention, because they were unlike any other cave drawings anyone had ever seen, even in Australia. Rock art was already pretty famous, but there was nothing like the Wandjina. The pictures immediately fueled a theory about aliens. There is no denying that the pictures of Wandjina, which to the Aboriginals was a supreme and omnipresent being, look like extraterrestrials. The Aboriginals drew thousands of pictures of the Wandjina, making it seem as though there had been thousands of these bizarre entities. People started wondering if aliens hadn't come down to Western Australia in the past and revealed themselves to the natives. Speculation began to swirl that the indigenous populations had been worshipping divine creatures from outer space with huge eyes and strange bodies. In reality, the Wandjina Sky Being was only a singular being, an almighty God that created the world and lorded over everything in it. Thanks for watching! Which deity did you like the most? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Come back soon. Bye!